Hello, friends. So, welcome to my presentation on a very hot topic these days, and that is coronavirus. As a global citizen, an ordinary global citizen, I have been closely watching and analyzing these events that have been unfolding in last 4.5 months, which began from the city of Wuhan in China. And as everyone knows, whatever happens in China or any part of China, that happens with the blessings from Chinese Communist Party. After analyzing these events in detail and when I was trying to join the dots, I came to a very logical conclusion that this virus is not a natural virus at all, but it has been purposefully invented in a lab, no other than the lab located at Wuhan Institute of Virology, and that is why I have named this presentation as a virus manufactured by CCP. Very obvious. Why would CCP plan to do so? Actually, CCP has been planning to uh, try to damage the countries which it sees would be hard to take on in open or through kinetic warfare, militarily or economically. So that is why it was planning to do so. Besides that, China has few options. If it does not resort to this kind of plan, then it has other options too. First option, just like for any other country, that China needs to learn to accept international norms, laws, bylaws, agreements, which any just like any other country in the world. But it has outrightly ignored such ideas. I'll give you few examples. One goes to um, the ruling which was given by International Court of Justice few years ago in favor of Philippines on the issue of line on South China Sea, which was totally rejected by China because it was not in its favor. Second one was about building artificial islands on South China Sea. The countries which believe in freedom of navigation on the international water appealed to China not to build artificial islands on South China Sea, not to obstruct the freedom of international movement of navigation on international water, but it ignored all these appeals at all and continued to build artificial island, finally established its military bases on these islands. And other option which I'm trying to cite here is that it would expand its political influence on other countries in order to control the world order militarily or economically. Unfortunately, both of these options are not easy options, or first option is outrightly out of question because it does not accept any such laws. Second option is a long drawn option which would take a long time for China to attempt to control the world order, and that is why, because the reason behind that is that it sees, it views existing economic and military powers would be there to challenge Chinese ulterior motives or Chinese unilateral aggression. So it had secretly prepared a master plan to destroy the world's major economies, developed nations, especially belonging to group of G7 nations as well as a group of NATO nations. And along with that, keeping in mind some of those countries which could be potential challenge to its might in future. So in 2012, Mr. Xi Jinping became the president of People's Republic of China, that is mainland China, and then soon after taking the control of PRC, he had approved an extraordinarily ambitious plan to influence and control the world affairs, which mainly consisted of two major components. One, Belt and Road Initiative, and second, very secret confidential biochemical warfare program in order to make great, China great again. And these two components have specific importance because uh, in case they are able to achieve their goal, objective of making China great again with the first component, Belt and Road Initiative, that will be the best scenario. But in case if they are facing any kind of roadblock, then they would implement this plan, second part of the plan. I want to give my personal thoughts and personal feelings about those policymakers or advisors to Chinese Communist Party or President Xi Jinping. I really appreciate their qualities because they seem to have deeply studied ancient as well as modern warfare um, policies, strategies, tactics gathered from Chinese literature or as well as from around the world. I will give you a few examples here. One is ancient Chinese Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Second one is the ancient Greek historian Thucydides' History of Peloponnesian War. And third one is ancient Indian um, writer and courtman of one of the very great and important emperors of ancient India, Kautilya's Arthashastra, a book written on the strategies on economy, on diplomacy, as well as on warfare techniques. And all of these books or articles have been written between 450 BC to 325 BC. Okay, they also the policymakers or the those advisors who have planned this secret plan also seem to have incorporated other techniques given in the book, which is very modern book written in 1999 by two army colonels of a People's Liberation Army of China in 1999. The name of the book is Unrestricted Warfare. Few of the strategies, ancient warfare strategies given in Sun Tzu's The Art of War, which I feel must have been incorporated in this plan, are following: deceive the sky to cross the ocean. So, I have picked up these saying from the website which is given below. If you want further details, you can definitely go to the website and look for more details as well as for more uh, techniques, strategies, strategies. The meaning of this first saying, deceive the sky to cross the ocean, means moving about in the darkness and shadows, occupying isolated places, or hiding behind screens will only attract suspicious attention from the opposite side. Therefore, in order to lower an enemy's guard, you must act in open, hiding your true intentions under the guise of common everyday's activities. So that means you pretend that you are engaged in day-to-day activities or all your normal activities, but you continue to carry out your uh, purpose, your true intentions, hiding it from the other people. Second one is inflict injury on oneself to win the enemy's trust. So that is, of course, these are very self-explanatory. However, I will read it for you, the explanation given on this website. That means pretending to be injured would have two possible applications. First, the enemy is lulled into relaxing his guard since he no longer considers you to be an immediate threat. And second would be a way of ingratiating yourself to your enemy by pretending the injury was caused by a mutual enemy. Means somehow you'll make your enemy believe that I have also been injured by the same enemy which is injuring you. So that way, you know, the enemy is common to both of us. These are the tactics they have used, definitely used in this very very secret plan. Third one is the opportunity, use the opportunity of fire to rob others. So it means when a country is beset by internal conflicts, when disease and famine ravage the population, when corruption and crime are rampant, then it will be unable to deal with an outside threat. This is the time to attack your enemy. Do you understand what I mean? Right now, all these rival countries to China are busy in dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. They are struggling very hard. So many lives have lost. They have lost so much. Economy has lost. So that way, this enemy is basically totally busy in dealing with these kind of stuff. And now you can attack the enemy because enemy is weaker now. Third is the fourth, which is the last one here listed on this on this presentation, but not the least, make your enemy tire himself out while conserving energy. So it means it is an advantage to choose the time and place of battle. In this way, you know when and where the battle will take place, while your enemy does not. Encourage your enemy to expend his energy in futile quests while you conserve your strength. When your enemy is exhausted and confused, you attack with full energy and the purpose you have. So, if you see, this is exactly what has been happening now. Next part of this, all this ambitious plan is to implement the first component of the ambitious plan, bigger plan, is to launch various takeover plans overseas by lending money in the name of development using its Belt and Road Initiative projects, especially to those countries which it sees has no significant economy or development whatsoever, but they do have other kind of resources, natural resources, such as minerals, oil and gas, etc. Few examples are Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, etc. in Africa. And of course, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan are in Central Asia. Second, the kind of countries which China views that they would definitely not be in a position to pay off their debt at all, because whatever money China is lending to them is not lending as an investment, it's a pure loan. The major part, about 85 to 90% of this, is a loan on a very high rate of interest. And they have extended this Belt and Road Initiative plan to as further as South Pacific Ocean. Countries such as Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, and Sri Lanka on Indian Ocean, Djibouti on North Eastern African region. They also attempted to expand their Belt and Road Initiative plan in the name of development to East European countries such as Holland, Serbia, and they also attempted to go to UK, Australia in the other side, on the other side, New Zealand, Italy in Europe, and other parts of Europe. And some of these countries were approached directly by Chinese authorities. Some of these countries were approached through the proxies. They even made attempts to um, uh, influence Canada and USA as well as Germany to join their Belt and Road Initiative, which were rejected. However, Italy in Europe has recently joined its Belt and Road Initiative, and UK was also considering it. But sadly for Xi Jinping, Mr. Donald Trump came to power as a president of the United States of America in 2017, and that way Mr. Xi Jinping's ambitious plan received a big setback that followed by a trade war between these two countries. And not only that, it did not stop there. It basically also involved 5G technology controversy, and then Huawei controversy, involvement in so-called illegal, illegitimate activities as per the United States. And here is the turning point where Xi Jinping felt very extremely frustrated. Getting the existing corona family virus, and the surprising thing here is that this funny part of this is that US was funding this research since 2018, okay, which and whereas US was at all known unknown to these kind of objectives, which was kept very secret and confidential by the Chinese authorities. Comes the Wuhan wet market. Live animals are sold, exotic to rare species animals are sold, okay, and the narrative was spread through the social media, through news media, that this virus spread from the wet market, and this virus came from bat. Surprisingly, no bat is sold here, and Wuhan wet market was closed in January 2020, and surprisingly it was opened very soon after 8 or 9 weeks after it was closed. Why? That's a surprising secret. At the same time, the Chinese researchers have already conducted further studies on this mutated form of coronavirus, and they have learned about the behavior and the pattern of replication of this virus. They also knew that no vaccination or medication is available, no cure is available for this kind of virus. If somebody is infected with this virus, nothing can cure it. Okay, they had also discovered the mode of transmission of this virus as part of their secret study, and they knew that this virus also it transmits from human to human, animal to human, of course, and human to animal. All these three modes of transmission were known to Chinese researchers and scientists who are involved in this very secret, very vicious game, secret study and research project. And these findings were kept very confidential and absolutely secret, not disclosed to anyone, as very obvious. His home country is Ethiopia. Before becoming the Director General of the World Health Organization, he has been minister. First, he was health minister, um, in the between the period 2003 until 2009. Okay, when he is basically allegedly he has been accused by other opponents that he was involved in covering up at least two cholera outbreaks in Ethiopia when he was health minister. Okay, and then later on he was a foreign minister of Ethiopia when Xi Jinping became president. He basically, his top officials visited Ethiopia to persuade them to join Belt and Road Initiative, and under that program, um, Ethiopia received a lot of money as as part of loan in the name of development. Okay, and that way, Mr. Tedros came in close proximity with the top leaders and officials of People's Republic of China. Here is the game plan of China, that they wanted him to become a director general of World Health Organization so that they can use him to support their fake narrative, false, absolute lies. And that's exactly what he did. He was already having close relationship with the top leaders and officials of China, and it is also believed that he has received some bribes also, kickbacks also, in order to agree on behalf of his country, Ethiopia, to join Belt and Road Initiative. So that was the game plan. And then later on in 2017, he was elected as head of the WHO with the strong support from China. And he knows, as well as China knows it very well, that Ethiopia would never be able to pay back whatever amount of loan it has received from China. So that is the reason. Now, when he was elected Director General of WHO, and subsequently everything was going on as smooth as possible, and later on, just recently, when this epidemic of coronavirus began in China, okay, Mr. Tedros standing by China, showing his solidarity, and I believe that was the way he thought he could pay back some of the gratitude or some of the favors China has extended to him as well as to his home country. So it's a kind of quid pro quo, and that is why he continued towing Chinese narratives, Chinese lying, Chinese lies uh, about the outbreak. Okay, he helped convey Chinese propaganda all around the world. He helped hide the reality from the world. He didn't take any initiative or to investigate the cause of spread of the disease. He continued to downplay the issue of pandemic or even epidemic. As late January 2017, on 14th of January, he was not really accepting the fact that there is any kind of health issue. Anyway, so the final part of this second component was to finally give a last push to cripple the world major economies. As you all know, in Wuhan City, many international companies have their Chinese head office. Okay, and Chinese government knows that Chinese workers from Wuhan um, are employed in Europe, in Australia, in other part of the world, including the United States of America, but especially Italy. In the northern city of Italy, Florence, many Chinese workers are employed there in factories, in different kind of establishment. Okay, and many of these workers, Chinese workers, come from the city of Wuhan. Okay, so there is a regular movement in and out from Wuhan city to outside China, and from outside China to Wuhan city. So it knows it. Look, their strategic mindset. They knew that once the epidemic starts from Wuhan, okay, it will definitely go to Italy and some other parts, and that way it will spread by itself. They do not even have to fire a bullet, and everything will be done by this coronavirus because it has ability to spread, to infect people very quickly. And also, the government of China knows that many foreigners also travel to Wuhan city. Similarly, many regular residents of Wuhan city travel to Europe, especially Italy. Although Italy was part of Belt and Road Initiative, but still it's a part of G7 nation and NATO nation. And they know, Chinese government knows it very well, that Italian people have settled all around the world, especially in the United States of America, Canada, and United Kingdom, and even in Australia. So they also have their connection to their home country, Italy, and that way, once it reaches Italy, it will automatically spread to the other part of Europe and to the United States. And they knew that it will definitely affect United States in the worst ever possible way. So next episode of this final game plan is that they had already, the government of China knows that the plan is going very smoothly as planned. Okay, the virus has been unleashed in the society, and they know that it's doing its job. People are getting infected. Okay, and these people, infected people, are going outside China, and they're traveling to Europe, they're traveling to United States, they're traveling to Australia. CCP knows that many Chinese workers are in Italy, and they have been flying back and forth from Italy to Wuhan, Wuhan to Italy, and it's very easy that this virus will travel to Italy, and as they also know that many Americans are Italian background, Italian descent, of Italian origin. So it many, and they basically regularly travel back to Italy, and this way it will travel to other countries, especially USA, Australia, Canada, Germany, France, you name it. And please note one thing: most of these countries are G7 nation countries or NATO countries, and it has really caused a havoc in these countries. The worst affected nation in this war game is the United States of America, where more than 50,000 people have died of COVID-19, and it's all stuck. And look, with the kind of strategies which I have listed earlier in my project in PowerPoint presentation, where it says, you know, make your enemy weak, exhausted, and that is exactly what they are doing. Now, the issue is of some of the chronicle, the pandemic chronicle. The Chinese Communist Party pretended nothing is happening. They played dumb. Okay, they knew virus is working. They knew the it's doing its job by transmitting from one human to another human, and it's spreading very quickly. They also acted as if they know nothing. Here, one point is to be noted. They also know world's perspective, world's uh, opinion towards the Chinese government, the nature of Chinese government. World sees China as very closed, very secret uh, government. It is not transparent government, and that itself acted as a shield against the any allegation of inventing virus, because they was showing nothing happened. They were showing their ignorance that way as part of China not being transparent country, and that is why they are doing so. It is kind of a shield for them, which will which is saving them from direct allegation of inventing the virus. And at the same time, Chinese government has activated its propaganda machinery all around the world. Its agents were working day and night to spread fake narrative that this um, virus is not transmitting from human to human. It is in fact not a issue even now until um, December 2019, when Taiwan has reported that this is a big problem. This infection is spreading from human to human. It has reported to WHO, but it was totally ignored by WHO. It did not pay any attention to its report, and it helped China continue its warfare program on all these countries. Although it was it was discovered as early as mid of November 2019 that this is a kind of SARS or the SARS virus, which was reported by one of the doctors who was treating its patients, that it has seen the kind of symptoms, SARS-like symptoms, and he was discussing this in the social media on WeChat in his group, but it was reported to the authorities, and the Chinese government silenced him very quickly. Later on, he died of same COVID-19 coronavirus. But on the other hand, the fact is, the sources say he was killed by People's Liberation Army under the uh, instruction from President of China. So here CCP was continuing to downplay it, vehemently downplaying it, that there is no such virus, etc. No human to human transmission. Virus got later on they said virus got from animal to human because people were eating um, live animals which were taken from wet market. They were saying this came from bat. Okay, although no bat is sold at Wuhan's wet market, and on the other side, WHO never attempted to take any initiative to even inquire about this disease. It has, although, gone to visit Wuhan city. It stayed there for 2 weeks but did not do much. It only went to see the Wuhan laboratory for 2 days only. It basically did not really do any significant work there to investigate the reason for the spread of this disease. Okay, when other countries offered to help China to investigate the reason for this coronavirus, Chinese Communist Party did not allow international scientists or virologists to visit. Even United States had offered, but they have outrightly ignored these offers because they know it. Where did it come from? It came from their own lab, spread by themselves on as per their plan. So this is another issue. The WHO was totally inactive. Um, I would say not complacent. It was basically a kind of accomplice in this crime of biowarfare, biological warfare that was waged by China on the other countries, especially these countries which have strong economic and military foundation. Taiwan had already discovered it in as soon as as early as December 30th or 31st 2019. WHO totally ignored it. Okay, WHO continued Chinese narrative that as on 14th of January, it still says there is nothing to worry about on, sorry, before the 14th of January, on 11th of January 2020, it says there is nothing to worry about. On 14th of January, when it blew out of hand, then they said, oh, it's okay, it's still okay, it is not transmitting from human to human. Some country wanted to impose travel restriction on China. WHO on 24th came out and stood by China, opposed any such idea of imposing travel ban on China or travel restriction on China or from China. Okay, um, although WHO declared it as a global epidemic on 30th of January, but it did not declare it as a global pandemic yet. Although it has started affecting other countries too. Reports of positive cases started to coming from Italy and other parts of the world, but still it did not declare it as pandemic. WHO refused to term it as a pandemic on 11th March only after that so many thousand people were reported positive, corona positive, then only it declared um, as a pandemic. In the meantime, Chinese government had been able to destroy or hide the research documents so that nobody would find the actual reason, the reality about the coronavirus. CCP also, seemed to have bought because it had activated its agents all around the world to buy up all the protective gears, equipments in advance. Okay, and they had a plan for that. Basically, it's not that they needed those many, but there was a big time uh, nefarious plan behind it. Mhm. And when China was struggling with the coronavirus infection in Wuhan city, um, it seemed that it was already new. It basically already knew, and it was already prepared to deal with these kind of epidemic in their country, and it seemed that it was totally well prepared to take on this pandemic. That's what that's at least what I felt when I was looking at the news clipping. Okay, China even bought up all the necessary gears from most of the countries all around the world wherever they were available. They were actually hoarding these protective gears, these medical equipments, and so that what happens is later on they can sell it back to the same countries from where they have gotten it as part of donation, as part of help to these from these countries to China. Okay, and yeah, this was the part of their strategy for upcoming days around the world because they already knew what's going to happen in the world. Um, Surprisingly, Wuhan city was locked down on 23rd of January 2020, but it was locked down from rest of the China, but it did not stop international travel. They traveled from Wuhan to outside China and from outside countries to Wuhan city because they knew that this is the most crucial way of infecting other countries with this coronavirus, and that is why they did not impose any kind of restriction from outside China to this city. Many Chinese propaganda agencies around the world were very highly active. And I will give you an example where one of the leftist mayor of the city of it, northern Italian city, Florence, who started a movement, I'm a Chinese, hug me, hug a Chinese, whose connivance exploiting its DZ, its Director General. They were they were taking full advantage of Dr. Tedros' position as a Director General of the WHO. Okay, and they also started floating the narratives of racism against Chinese people, or even terming these some of the instances as xenophobic instances, examples of xenophobia happening in the countries like USA, Canada, or other parts of the world, just to try to deflect global attention from the actual issue of pandemic to these kind of petty issues which were not really very important or were not really true. And then they started accusing USA that USA has brought corona to China. Later on, they started accusing Italy that it was Italy who had brought coronavirus to China. So that's the way flip-flop kind of thing happening in Chinese establishment. Guess what? China opened the Wuhan wet market again, okay, as early as the last week of March 2020. They opened it up because they knew this is not the real source of coronavirus. Coronavirus is actually invented by Chinese scientists and has been released in the society by Chinese government so that they can take the advantage of this coronavirus to wage secret biowarfare on the countries which it views as its rival countries. So it was kind of wet market was kind of part of script to eyewash global attention, and then this is basically so in here. This is the reason I have concluded that this virus is a purposefully invented virus by Chinese Communist Party to wage a war on the other countries which it sees as a kind of a rivals, as a kind of a challengers against China, or in its agenda, which is ulterior motives, ulterior nefarious agenda to colonize the entire world, to control the world affair militarily, economically, and financially. As everybody knows, that it has started trying to take over many very strategic companies around the world, which have fallen to the crisis caused by COVID-19. And that's all I want to say. This is the reason I have concluded this is a virus manufactured by Chinese Communist Party. Thank you very much.